Yours. You got a big one.
Okay, I'll send.
Ready?
Yes.
Okay. It's 1:00. Call the February 21st Board of Commissioner meeting to order.
Well, we're gonna stand there here.
We're going to start out with a prayer from Commissioner Sarkella and the pledge by Commissioner Moody.
Dear Lord, we thank you for this day and for the opportunity to gather to serve our friends and neighbors. We ask that you would be with us during our meeting. Help us to make wise decisions and do all that we should. In your son's name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Leslie, roll call, please.
District 1 Chairman John Block,
Present.
District 2 Commissioner Roger Ballard,
Here.
District 3 Commissioner Gary Heberlin,
Here.
District 4 Commissioner Bill Sarkella,
Present.
District 5 Commissioner Christine Lee, present. District 6 Commissioner Evans Ehart,
Present.
District 7 Commissioner John Moody.
Present. Thank you, Leslie.
You're welcome.
If there are no additions, corrections, or deletions to today's agenda, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
I'll make a motion to adopt today's agenda.
Support. I have a motion from Commissioner Heberlin, support from Commissioner Ehart. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Moving on to our meeting minutes from February 7th. If there are no corrections, I'll entertain a motion to approve. So moved.
Support.
We have a motion from Commissioner Ballard, support from Commissioner Lee to approve the meeting minutes from February 7th. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. I received your correspondence from Jody through email the other day. We'll move into commissioner reports. We will start with Commissioner Moody.
Had Worth Township on the 15th. They decided they could discuss and talk about their short-term rentals. They're going to cap their short-term rentals at 80, and they're going to charge $750 per unit. And looking at possibly hiring somebody to enforce their code, their short-term rental codes there. They accepted an offer on a piece of property that they had for sale. They also discussed possibly doing a contract with the sheriff to have some extra patrols during the summer. But they were going to table that until they had a few more questions answered from the sheriff. But that's all I have for commissioner report.
Okay, thanks, John. Evans?
Nothing pressing on the township meeting, but Lexington Council meeting, they're reposting their city manager position again. Just to update the post of it to change verbiage that they want it posted until the position's filled, opposed to just it saying, for this date to this date, they're going to keep it out there and add more verbiage to the position to bring in more applicants that are qualified. Besides that, nothing else in the past 2 weeks.
Thank you, Evans. I myself attended a Marion Township meeting. Marion Township is in the process of redoing their entire ordinance book, as well as updating their solar and wind ordinance. They've discussed, some road issues that they're dealing with. And that's about it. That's all I have. Christine?
I attended the City of Brown City Council meeting, and the police are going to e-tickets to make it more efficient and save some money there. I attended the Flint Township meeting, and they have an ordinance that they're working on. I don't want to get into that. I attended the Peck Village meeting, and they had just updated their ordinance. And then on February 8th, I attended the MTA, and County Administrator Nathan Roski and Sheriff Rich were guest speakers, and they hit on what the county was doing in blight. And the next meeting for the MTA is July 19th at 6 p.m. And if you want to order off the menu, it's at 5. And then the blight,
Where's it at? If it's a good menu or not, should we?
it's at Liberty Lane.
No, it's a good menu.
And so then I got home and thinking, because of what Sheriff Rich was saying about blight, that from township to township, everybody's ordinance is different. So I went and I looked up everybody's ordinance. And some of them have quite a few pages. Some are just back to back. Some of them are difficult to find. Some of them are 12 pages long. And I noticed also that on the county website, if you go under documents, there's the different townships that are listed and their zoning ordinance that are on there. I'd like to see the county reach out to everybody in our area and send a letter and ask to have their ordinance sent so we can have everybody's listed in the same spot. One township, it was a nightmare that it didn't have anything labeled. It just, you open up all these tabs, and so things are got to be more people friendly. And I think we should look at our website too, because if you look at it, I was talking with Gary, Commissioner Heberlein, and we just got, when you first open it up, there's just too much on the front page. And that if you're computer savvy, then that's all right. But if you're not computer savvy, it turns you off.
It was busy.
Yeah,
So we said.
busy. It's good information, but it's just too much on the front page. And that's all I have for this part.
Thank you, Christine. Bill?
Port Sanilac, they had a, one of their, positions in the village, resigned because he's moving on to the museum coordinator position. They're getting funding for their street project, moving that forward. They did interview for a vacant DPW position. They'll be hiring that soon. And then they signed the sheriff's agreement. So Port Sanilac does have an agreement with our sheriff department for patrol. And they're very, very happy with that arrangement. Bridgehampton, they were having contract discussions for their fire protection. They attended the County Treasurer Association meeting, and then they updated their budget while I was there. Sanilac Township, looking at their investment discussion, their ag assessments, and then also their millage, and an ongoing discussion there is the Southeastern Fire Authority and the millages in regards to that as well. Washington Township swore in some board of review members. They did a roadside quote, and then also the database management. And of course, their biggest topic seems to be blight every time you're at their meetings. Gary can attest to that. And then Carterville, the village, had a new well presentation. They're going to be doing new water tower. And also they worked on their trash pickup. So they've gotten some USDA grants there. And with some help through the county, there's been some direction that they were given. So they're going to have some good funding, some really super dollars at low rates to be able to fund all that. That's all I have.
Very good. Thank you, Bill. That on the note of Port Sanilac and the sheriff's department providing service there, it's pretty rare you drive through Port Sanilac and there's not a sheriff's deputy somewhere in town. It's something.
Particularly the north end.
Yeah.
Yeah, they like to sit there. They've got everybody trained. When you go south now on 25, all the brake lights go on before our church at the north end.
Yeah.
Even if they're not there.
Very good. Thank you, Bill. Gary?
Yep, attended our township meetings. Actually, most of mine are earlier in the month. And Custer Township had another meeting here a week ago. And they're still working on their solar ordinance. And I was asked by a couple constituents if I could get some of the surrounding township solar ordinance. And so I got a couple of them. And then the township asked me if I could supply them with some of them. So I've got all of the townships in my district plus Washington and Bridgehampton that were my townships. So we're getting those all together. And I think Moortown is already on the website here. So they want to take a look at and maybe, I don't know if it's the right word to use, copycat off some of the ones that's already in place. So they're kind of the same. Chris and I and the sheriff attended they get together at Lisa McLean's office over in Lake Orion last week. And let's see what else was. Oh, we had a luncheon get together. Chris and I did. She already talked about that. And you want to go to a luncheon get together with Chris because she buys steak and baked potatoes. No, but we went through some of the stuff in the county where we've been and where we're headed and kind of a history back up, and especially about the plate. So end of my conversation.
Thanks, Gary. Roger?
A week ago today, I attended Marlette Township's meeting. They tend to have a lot of blight issues over there. I think it's neighbors against neighbors, basically. But, and they composed a letter for the school and the police. They had committed $9,750 a year for 3 years towards the school liaison officer. The police department had put out a request for, I believe it's $50 a student in the townships. And they agreed to do that, and they're going to uphold that, but they have since found out that there was grant money available that the school should have been applying for, and it could have been fully funded, and it wasn't. They had an example, Kendi received $200,000 to fund that position, so needless to say, they're a little upset about that, but they are gonna hold up their agreement.
I know Deckerville applied for that grant funding just on a whim and got $90,000.
Yeah.
But there's no way that the village police department can staff the position. So, but that grant funding, Roger, I think it's only for 3 years. So it's not really a long-term solution. It's kind of a way of creating the spot. So I see where the townships might not be super pleased, but they're kind of in a long-term situation with what they've got planned there. Sure. That's an interesting concept to get the townships to get involved in that as like a community support to bring something like that about. So
They got a couple. I can't name them all, but they did. But hopefully they can get some funding in place to sustain that position. Last night I attended Lamont Township meeting. Not a lot going on there. Land split was a big topic. Pretty short meeting. Their fire department does have a pancake dinner coming up on March 11th, Saturday morning. And we attended the last one. It's very good. Good cause.
they got a pretty good group over there too.
They do. And I had shared some information with my townships on some potential fire department grants. The last one, they come through MAC, and there were 3 opportunities. And so I shared that information because they don't get it,
Right.
the information. So they were grateful for that, and hopefully they'll pursue that because they're looking right now, they're just starting to look at possibly some virtual training. Because those guys, even though they're volunteers, they have to do 36 hours training annually to remain on the department certified. And it's tough to get everybody to come to meetings and when they're having the training, and it ends up they have training all the time just to accommodate everybody. So they're looking into trying this out, but it's not free either.
Right.
It's pretty costly, but they're looking into more avenues. So that's about it.
Thanks, Roger. All right. Appreciate everyone's commissioner reports. At this time, we'll ask Nathan for his administrator report.
Thank you. To hit on Christine's point, this kind of goes along with it. First off, I'll lead by the master plan survey has been taken down off the website. That was out there when it got put up. Unfortunately, they only wanted the data to be collected through the end of the year. So that got, the end of January. So that was to be removed January 31st. And then it got left up a few days past that, which caused a little confusion, but I got with IT, they were able to get it down. Sure. As far as the webpage goes, that is something I've had discussions with our IT director about. Shortly after I got here, actually, I noted the webpage is very busy on the front. Talked to her about, could we stick things in folders or get them like, you follow links to get here. One of the things she noted is in the past, when they tried to clean it up, people get very adapted to, you go to the front of the website and boom, you can find this here, you find this here. When they have to go searching for things, they get very lost, and it creates like this influx of people calling saying they can't find things anymore. I would like to find a way to remedy that, maybe even if we put a link to like frequently used documents or items or something so that people could navigate some of those things, because I agree, the webpage is very busy. So I'll have some more discussions with her about that. Ways to maybe make things accessible without having so much busyness going on the front of the website. Myself and Nick Lusher, our building and ground supervisor, had another meeting regarding the potential for a new animal control building. We met with our architectural regarding the architectural designs and maybe making some modifications to find maybe the most cost-effective way to construct that building while making sure that it fits our needs. So we're continuing to work on that. If we feel like we can get to a number that is something that we can bring before
the ARPA committee, and they want to move on that, then maybe that can be something that'll go to the board at some point. So we found a few modifications that I think are going to make a substantial difference. So I had a call with the Michigan Association of Counties last week. County administrators do those calls monthly. It was a good meeting. They talked about the governor's budget. I'm sure a lot of you have seen it. Just going to spend it. So with that being said, the counties are set to see a little bit of an increase on some things. State revenue sharing will be increased as a part of that. However, a potential for a portion of that state revenue sharing is as she has it proposed, earmarked for public safety. So we won't see maybe the total increase just for county, but it will go to resources within the county nonetheless. Looking at a potential grant opportunity for the recycling center. When we redid the recycling center, or when it was done, this was prior to me getting here, but they made some improvements, got a new storage building down there for some of the materials, put some cement pads in front of the baskets. One of the biggest things that continues to come up is the parking lot itself is a little bit of a mess if the weather changes, and people might be deterred from taking the recycling down there because your vehicles sink in, it's muddy, it's trekking through it. Some people avoid it. So what I'd like to explore with the next, with this grant opportunity is maybe blacktopping or cementing the rest of the parking lot. And that's something we've talked about on the recycling committee for quite some time. So if this could come through for us, that would be really good. I'm meeting with Joanne from the recycling center Thursday to discuss that. MTA, I wrote down about the Michigan Township Associations. I think that was covered. We had a good meeting, got them talking about their ordinances. They generated some good discussions about having some consistency with ordinances and why that would make it easier for enforcement purposes. One of the big things that came up in the discussion that was interesting is one of the biggest deterrents to enforcement on the ordinances from the townships was just there's some level of fear of going out to the home safety, I guess. So that was something that I didn't realize how much concern there was at people going out and knocking on the doors at some of these residences. So it was something that was voiced. We had our weekly, been involved in these weekly MREC calls with the counties that are in litigation, if you will, with the windmill companies. Those have been ongoing since I have gotten here. Every Friday we meet. There's us, Tuscola, Huron, Gratiot. We all meet. It's the county administrators, some members from the townships, and then some of the zoning officials. And we go through the litigation right now that's heated over in Tuscola involving consumers. And some of the concern is that with the clawbacks consumers wants on those tax dollars that was promised to the county. A couple of the schools are looking at getting hit pretty hard, specifically Akron Fairgrove schools and USA schools, and then their ISD as well. So there's some services that are really scrambling, and the school like Akron Fairgrove being so little, there's concern on whether if that money gets taken back from them, whether they'll be able to sustain. So those are some of the concerns as we get deeper into this and we hear about some of the things going on with some of the windmill projects, making sure that we fully understand when these companies come in, some of the promises that are made don't always get followed through with. So, or some of the information gets changed as we go. So that's what we really have to know.
If I can just stop you for a minute.
Yeah.
I read that report. So correct me if I'm wrong, because you never know who to believe it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like the consumers were overpaid. Now they want the money back, or I was trying to understand.
Well, it depends on what you consider the appropriate depreciation of the windmills.
I think they paid what was appropriate. Now they want it back.
Now they want it.
And now these companies continue, just like Fremont and Speaker, to make those big promises of all this money that's going to come in from them. And then the same thing's going to happen down there.
Or they're depreciating faster than they expected.
Yes.
Or they lied to us to start with, right?
Yeah.
Well, hey,
There's two issues with the depreciation. It's the schedule that created the issue why we've been in Emmerich for 12 years and have spent over $500,000 litigating the issue is because the tax table changed. So while that issue may be rectified, the fact of someone having the ability to contest their taxable value is never going to change. So no, even if the tax tables are solidified, we're going to continue to deal with this litigation and these concerns related to the value of the turbines. It's no different than the board of review. Everybody here owns property or a house. The assessor assess it, and you have the opportunity to go before the assessor and argue against it. And that's not going to stop. And that's what people need to understand is that even though the tax tables may be rectified, these tax clawbacks are going to continue. And so we're not going to know, as you discussed, Nathan, some of these projects we have on the horizon, we're really never going to know what the tax revenue we're actually going to receive is. So I think it would be wise for us to be extremely cautious with any of those funds we receive. I mean, you almost want to set it aside and wait and see what happens. I would certainly hate to start adding programs, personnel, and essentially grow the size of county government based on an increase in revenue that we clearly can't trust.
Well, the thing of it is, if this sets the precedence, if consumers get this money back, it's going to happen every time now, right?
Right.
So
So
I agree. We need to be careful.
Nathan, is it true that the DTE section is that completed now?
That's settled, yeah.
There's
The
settled.
DTE portion has settled. Consumers is still in some pretty contentious conversations, I guess, in Tuscola. And then we have Constellation is involved with, I think, Huron, Tuscola, and St. Lac. We've got a little portion with them as well. And that's been really quiet on their front. So
I think that's Exelon's Michigan Wind 2 in Santa Lac that got sold to Constellation.
Yep, that's correct. So, yeah, and that's all I had.
Okay. Any questions for Nathan?
Yeah, Nathan, on the recycle center, nothing to do with the parking lot. You can sit down. Is there anything more being explored to accept glass down there? That's the one thing I hear is that they don't accept glass.
I can talk to Joanne about that. That's really,
I caught a segment on a PBS show the other day, and there's a company somewhere down south. Can't remember what state it was. These people started, and they actually are turning glass back into sand and marketing it. Because they said behind water, the number 2 most used resource in the world is sand.
That's probably for highways and things too.
Sand, whatever you need sand for. But they are literally turning it back into sand.
That's good to know because there was no market for that for quite a while.
So I'm hoping that catches on. Because there's a lot of glass going to landfills.
Right.
Now Marlette, they accept it. Psycho does.
Yeah.
What happens to it after it gets in the truck, I don't know, but they do accept it.
yeah, I'll talk to Joanne about that.
Good. Any further questions for Nathan? Hearing none, thank you for your report, Nathan. Thank you. At this time, we'll entertain public comments pertaining to the agenda today. Are there any public comments pertaining to today's agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on. There's no 13A, 13B, or 14. We have no general resolutions, so we'll move into committee reports, and we will start with Commissioner Ballard.
Last Friday, I believe it was, he attended the Michigan Works meeting in Lapeer. A lot of new faces, new commissioners. As far as I'm at the board, executive board, not much more to discuss. Pretty short meeting. What else did I have? A week ago, yesterday, I had a DPF meeting, and Parks was 2 weeks ago, and a lot of ongoing projects on the parks. I have an item on the finance agenda. That's it.
Thanks, Roger. Gary?
Okay, we had a personnel committee meeting this morning, myself, Nathan, John, and Jody. And then actually before that, we had an ARPA committee meeting. Nathan's pretty well covered what was discussed in there. And then tonight at 4:00, John and I have a county planning meeting.
Thanks, Gary. Bill?
Santa Lac Transportation had their meeting. They had a security study done by the sheriff's department, so they'll be doing a few things there to improve security at the facility. Still looking at trying to acquire buses. That's always a big thing. And then Nathan was able to attend their meeting. They had a county lease update as well, because we do lease that building to the transportation. And then a pension meeting. We did a minor reallocation at pension and trying to mitigate loss, and the value there is over 70 million. So pension's doing well.
Good. Bill? Christine?
I attended Child Abuse Prevention meeting, and April is Child Abuse Awareness Month. We went over the bylaws and reorganization, and they talked about having to do some more fundraising to get that out there. Then this morning I had a health board meeting. And one interesting fact was kids' obesity, that if you walk over 12,000 daily steps, you have a low risk of becoming overweight. And less than 4 hours of screen time a day. And they're talking about TV, video games, phone, tablets, even your watch. Influenza cases have went down. Monkeypox, there's 0 cases in Sanilac County. And the COVID in Sanilac County is at the medium level. Maple Valley, they're talking about renaming that building over there. One thing that was thrown out, like the Family Resource Center. They'd like to thank the jail crew for doing their cleanup, because when the school left, they left all these desks and stuff. So they've been taking the metal parts off and recycling that and then getting rid of the other parts. They're finishing up on the electronic key, and they have people that want to rent that place, and telehealth is here to stay, I guess.
Thank you, Christine. I had a personnel meeting this morning with Gary and Jody and Nathan. We discussed an issue that will come before the board here shortly. We also had an ARPA meeting this morning. It's a good discussion related to the ARPA funds the county received. We have another project in mind, and I think maybe within 30 days, Nathan, we may have something to present to the board on that. And then the MAC 7th met last Monday on the 13th, and I just want to cover this quick. And we've had some discussions here about the attempt to kind of revitalize that. And we actually got participation out of Huron County last Monday. So we had Tuscola, Sanilac, and Huron represented, generated a really good discussion. And we were able to share some information back and forth. And some of those things were county experiences and engagement with solar and wind farms, and hearing some of the issues that they've dealt with and how they're working through that. After that discussion with those counties that are facing similar issues to what we're facing, I would still strongly recommend that if these types of projects are built in our county, we're extremely cautious about how we spend those funds, try to find avenues for utilizing it with the presumption that we may not know what we're getting or how long we're going to get it. Because I think some of our colleagues in some other counties maybe use that to grow the size of departments, and they're feeling that pain right now with these tax clawbacks. So we also heard about ARPA funds and some of the uses they had. County administration structure was an interesting one to have discussion with, because we all know Huron County set up a little different than we are. They don't have a physical administrator on staff. We talked about cyber security, the opioid settlement, county virtual meetings, the ability for county board members to participate virtually still. So maybe you have a quorum of the board that's physically seated in the boardroom, but maybe John's in Florida and you want to participate. As long as there's a quorum still existing here on the board, that you'd be able to call in and vote. That's currently not allowed. But as we've discussed, kind of the purpose of the revitalization of the MAC 7th is for us to find things we agree on that we can then have the MAC board work for in Lansing on legislation moving forward. Beyond that, just some other general good discussion. We have a meeting schedule set up. So the next meeting is going to be April 17th, and that will be hosted by Huron County. I will presume that Huron County will be sending out an invite that Jody will likely get and then disperse to everybody. If you have the ability to participate on the 17th, I would certainly encourage that. And then on July 17th, we're going to host it here at Sanilac County. Again, it'll be virtual, but Jody will be the one kind of facilitating the creation of the meeting. And then Monday, October 16th, Tuscola County will host the meeting again. And we're planning for these meetings to start around 9 a.m. And they've been running 2 to 2.5 hours. So if you decide to hop on, have a bottle of water and be ready to sit for a while. So
Is that meeting in Bad X at the restaurant?
no, my guess will be on the 17th that it'll be virtual. But what we're doing is we're, so instead of requiring Tuscola be the one to facilitate sending out the meeting invite every time, we're going to try to share that responsibility.
It's going to continue to be virtual.
We think so. You know, and there's no doubt that you get a better meeting and a better discussion out of being in person. But when you start talking about these 5 counties, that's a lot of travel time for everybody. And we're kind of struggling to get that I don't think, I mean, unless you guys have a different mindset on it, I don't think in-person meetings would generate better participation. I think you get better participation out of a virtual.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
Or
So,
attendance anyways.
yeah, in that, especially in a time slot like that on a Monday at
You're right,
9
Jerry.
in the morning, you know,
I've sat in on a couple.
that's how they used to do it in the past, but I think that's one of the reasons why it fell into disrepair, if you will, because they just didn't have the participation. So,
I think at the last one I sat in on, we had the discussion of why we weren't getting participation. I
right,
think you're correct. There were a lot of guys, they either weren't running or they didn't win.
yeah.
So they're not back.
Yeah, so I just can't say enough about once we had Huron involved in it, just you had one more county's perspective added in, it was really good. I'm, now more aware that Lapeer had a massive changeover on the board, so I'm gonna reach out to some of the new commissioners in Lapeer and see if I can get one to participate. And then also St. Clair had indicated that they would. While I haven't seen that happen yet, I do plan on sending them an email and try to invite them to the next one, so. But we are making progress, and that is good. That's all I have for committee reports. Evans?
I have not had any committee meetings since before our last board of commissioner meeting. So I have nothing to report on that.
Okay, lucky you, John.
Like Roger said, we attended the Michigan Works meeting. I was able to go an hour beforehand and they had a new commissioner's orientation.
Okay.
So to really talk about what they do and their budget and how all that they get their money and stuff like that. So that was really nice to have that. And I went to the Thumb Regional Correctional Advisory Board meeting last week. And it was a pretty quick meeting. There wasn't a whole lot going on, but they did discuss a little bit about some pretrial services to try and keep some of the people out of jail that don't really need to be in there before trial. That was about it.
Did you have experience with that board before you became?
Yes, I was
You
on it
did.
prior to.
Okay, I thought that was the case.
Yeah, I was on it for several years prior to.
Very good. Thank you, John.
Yep.
Okay, you have no unfinished business, so that'll take us into new business. We're going to start with FA 014-23, approval of 2022 current claims.
San Luis County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the payment of current claims for 2022 identified on the accounts payable report dated February 14, 2023. For the general bank account, the amount of $20,000, $542.54.
I have a motion from Finance Chairman Sarkella. Is there support? Is that you, Roger?
Yeah.
Okay, we have support from Commissioner Ballard. Is there discussion on FA 014-23? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 015-23, approval of 2023 current claims.
San Luis County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the payment of current claims for 2023 identified on the accounts payable report dated February 14, 2023 for the general bank account in the amount of $118,108.83.
Support.
I have a motion from Finance Chairman Sarkella, support from Commissioner Heberlin. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 016-23, budget adoptions, amendments, appropriations, and transfers.
San Luis County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the following amendments and establishes the following accounts as listed.
I have a motion from Commissioner Sarkella. Is there support? We have support from Commissioner Moody. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 017-23, approval of additional general fund bank account checks charged to January 2023.
San Luis County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the payment of additional general fund bank account checks charged January 2023 as follows. $357,926.86 ACH payments, $530,156.32 in checks for a total of $888,083.18.
Support.
I have a motion from Commissioner Sarkella, support from Commissioner Lee. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 018-23, approval of contractual law enforcement services agreement, Sheriff's Office.
San Luis County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the non-expiring agreement for contractual law enforcement services between Delaware Township and San Luis County Sheriff's Office and further authorizes the board chairman to sign the necessary agreement. Support.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarcella, support from Commissioner Ehart. Is there discussion on the topic? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 019-23, authorization to purchase cemetery flags and markers, Veterans Affairs.
San Luis County Board of Commissioners hereby authorizes the Veterans Affairs Director to purchase 38 cross flags from National Flag and Display Company Incorporated at a cost of $5,198.40, and to purchase 413 markers from New England Flag Manufacturing Company at a cost of $2,307.45 for a total cost not to exceed $7,505.85 with funding from the Veterans Affairs millage for immediate approval.
Support. Yep.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarcella, support from Commissioner Ballard.
Yeah.
Is there any discussion on FA 019-23? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 020-23, approval of 2024 budget, Sand Lake Transportation.
San Luis County Board of Commissioners hereby approves the fiscal year 2024 San Luis Transportation budget. Support.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarcella, support from Commissioner Ehart. Is there discussion on the topic? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 021-23, adoption of 2024 resolution of intent and approval of 2024 contract clauses certification, Sand Lake Transportation.
San Luis County Board of Commissioners hereby adopts the fiscal year 2024 resolution of intent and approves the fiscal year 2024 contract clauses certification for San Luis Transportation, and further authorizes the board chairman and county clerk to sign the necessary documents.
Support.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarcella, support from Commissioner Lee. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signal by saying aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. Richard, you good for another year now?
Yes.
All right. Moving on to FA 022-23, award and authorization of boiler replacement project.
San Luis County Board of Commissioners hereby awards and authorizes Unified Building System the bid for the purpose of architectural and engineering for the boiler replacement project at a cost not to exceed $12,500 with funding from ARPA funds.
Support.
We have a motion from Commissioner Sarcella, support from Commissioner Heberlin. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Moving on to FA 023-23, award and authorization portable radios, Sheriff's Office.
San Luis County Board of Commissioners hereby awards and authorizes the Sheriff's Office purchase 4 Harris XL 200P portable radios from AM Cave Services at a cost not to exceed $20,616.80 with funding of $19,600.39 to be reimbursed through Homeland Security grant funds and $1,016.41 to come from $3,585 in segregated funds from the sale of 2013 Ford Expedition, which can only be spent on Homeland Security related projects for immediate approval.
Support. We have a motion from Commissioner Sarcella, support from Commissioner Ballard. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signal by saying aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. That concludes new business. We will move on to general public comments. Are there any general public comments today? Please identify yourself for the county clerk.
My name is Diana Strickler from Speaker Township. Our township board tried to sneak these turbines past our community when COVID was going on. Isn't the health, safety, and welfare of our county important? Protecting our farmland, wetlands, woodlands, and groundwater. Protecting our people from noise of these monster turbines, the infrared sound that causes vibroacoustic disease. Our township lawyer at the time told them they should be voted on as a community. But personal greed got the best of them. Not one of our board members read the turbine contracts. Now they have made mistakes in their ordinances and are up here trying to pass it through. I think the whole thing should be rescinded and start with a clean slate. Our board never did any research on the effects of these turbines. We have tried to educate them, but they won't listen. They are so afraid the turbine company will sue them. When did money become more important than people's safety? Most of the money promised is coming out of our pockets in subsidies. Them offering $1 million to Speaker Township to push this through is over the top. Speaker Township board members say that this ordinance is the best you have ever seen. I think it's the worst for our county. We need setbacks 4 times the height at the horizontal tip of the blade. 30 decibels Lmax at the property line. No shadow flicker at the property line. We have heard from well drillers that say if you screw up the groundwater, we're all done. There's no fixing it. Look at Chatham, Kent, Ontario. They have black shale, and so do we. Speaker Township has not been correctly printing the minutes. As of this morning, they have not posted January 23 minutes online. I wonder why. I suggest everyone here watch the documentary by Michael Moore called Planet of the Humans. You will see the green energy. You will see that green energy is not green at all. Thank you. And
Question. What was your first part you said about the ordinance? Wasn't the correct ordinance?
right, they're pushing it through this afternoon. They messed up and now they're bringing it back. So they said it's just a clerical error, but there's been a lot of changes in it and it doesn't look right to us.
I want it for a minute.
I'll let you all want it. This is just an ordinance. It's another.
There is.
I don't have one.
And they, if you have
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. If you have a meeting, those minutes are unofficial minutes at first, until they're solidified.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, are there any other general public comments today? Seeing none, I see no need for closed session, see no need for an approval of closed session minutes. Is there anything else the board would like to discuss before we adjourn? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Support.
Motion by Commissioner Ballard, support from Commissioner Lee. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You're adjourned at 1:42.
I think the one thing about being able to phone in if we're gone to vote, you think that might be.